today we're gonna draw the cat in the hat. So the first thing you're gonna do is in the middle of your paper, you're gonna do 2 equal size ovals with a little bit of space between them. You're then gonna do 2 dots for the pupils that are filled in. You can do them in the center so it looks like your cat's facing forward, or you can do them on the side or looking up. I'm gonna do mine looking like he's looking to the left of the paper. You're gonna come below those and you're gonna do an oval that goes in this direction and then fill that in. All right, friends, and then what we're gonna do is a line above the eyes for the top of the cat's hat. Okay, we're gonna do another line. And then right on the side of this eye, you're gonna draw an ear, and that's gonna be a curve that comes up in one direction, curves in the opposite direction, and comes down. You're then just gonna do the same thing inside of it for the inside of the ear. Now, because you're using pencil, if you wanna erase that little line that goes through your ear, you can. Unfortunately, I cannot, so I am just going to leave it. I'm now gonna add just a little line coming down the edge of that hat. Great, okay, now I'm gonna give him some eyebrows. I'm just gonna do some curves that come above it. I'm now going to do the forehead of your cat, and that's gonna curve all the way down and kind of stop a little bit below his eye. So I'm gonna come about right here from the hat, not all the way out, and curve till maybe about where the nose ends. Now I'm gonna go over on this side of the eye, and I'm gonna draw from that curve I just did. I'm gonna curve up, and I'm gonna stop when I get near that eye. So I'm gonna take my pencil, curve up, and stop. I'm now gonna do a line that curves this way. Okay, we're gonna do the mouth now. So that's gonna come from this curve. It's gonna just slightly curve out, curve in, and come down. I'm gonna go on this side of the hat, and I'm gonna draw the head, and that's gonna I like to give him some zigzags for hair. And then he's gonna curve in around that lip and curve back. Should be about the same length as this. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw the cat in the hat's bow. So we're gonna do a big circle, and then you can connect his neck to it. And then off of that circle, I'm gonna do almost like a wide heart shape. It's gonna curve out and come in, or like a butterfly's wings, right? And then I like to add like 3 lines for wrinkles. And then from that, you're just gonna do a curve coming down on each side for his body. Perfect, so he's starting to come together. Now we need to remember, we're gonna draw 3 whiskers on each side. And they go right about in the cheeks. Okay. All right, and it's okay if your mouth kind of droops down a little more, because a real cat in the hat's mouth does that. So if you want to adjust that, you are more than welcome to. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm just going to add some lines for shadows. I'm going to switch over to the Skinny Sharpie, and I like this because it makes the lines on your marker thinner. So I'm going to do diagonal lines on the left-hand side of my cat in the hat, all the way down here, even on the left-hand side of his body. Okay, so I'm just adding some lines. Later on, we'll paint some shadows in that as well. Okay, so now that we have that, one thing I do want to go in, and just below the eye, I want to do a little curve like this on each side. There we go. So I'm now gonna go in, and we're gonna start to finish off that hat. Now the Cat in the Hat's hat is pretty big. It does get slightly smaller as it gets up. Yours is actually gonna go off the paper a little bit. So I'm gonna do a curve that comes up and stops, and then a curve that comes up and stops. All right, now what we're gonna do is we are going to draw some patterns in our background, and we are also going to draw some patterns in our hat and our necktie. I don't want you to feel that you have to copy what you see in the real Cat in the Hat. You can draw any kind of pattern you want, but we're gonna stick with an A-B pattern at first to keep it simple. And an A-B pattern is when you pick two things that change back and forth. So I'm gonna think of two different types of lines, and then I'm gonna pick two colored crayons. I'm just gonna do purple and yellow. And I'm gonna think of what kind of lines I wanna do, and I'm gonna go back and forth with those two lines. So I'm gonna start with a zigzag, and I know this is really not, you know, the real Cat in the Hat's design, that's okay. And then I'm gonna do a loop-de-loop. Now friends, I don't want you to make yours exactly like mine. Now that I have the loop-de-loop, what do I have to do next? If it's an A-B pattern, I have to do a zigzag, okay? And notice I'm pushing hard. Now after the zigzag, I need to do a loop-de-loop again. So now I could probably even go up here and do a loop-de-loop. I have loop-de-loop, zigzag, loop-de-loop, zigzag, loop-de-loop. That's an A-B pattern. You're gonna do the same pattern in your tie. You can go in the circle first if you want. That's up to you how you approach it, but you want the same pattern. So if you did a loop-de-loop, zigzag in your hat, you're gonna do a loop-de-loop, zigzag in your tie, just to create some unity and repetition to bring it all together. So that's an A-B pattern. Loop-de-loop, zigzag, loop-de-loop, zigzag, loop-de-loop. And not only do I have a line pattern, but since I switched colors, what else do I have? Not just a line pattern, I have a color pattern. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are gonna start to paint our Cat in the Hat together. So I'm gonna go in with some watercolor, and I'm gonna pick one color to start with, and that color is gonna be blue. And this is actually gonna be used for our shadows. We want a light value of the blue, so get a lot of water on your brush, and just where we drew those shadows, you're gonna go in and just paint a very light layer of blue, remembering ballerina toes. Okay. Now we're gonna go in and we are going to paint over the Cat in the Hat's hat and his bow tie. Any colors you want, but whatever color you paint in your hat, you might wanna also repeat that in your bow tie. So I'm gonna go in, outline around the hat first. Okay. And what you'll see is I can go right on top of that crayon because I pushed pretty hard on it and create a resist. Now, if I want to lighten my paint as I'm using it, I just add some more water to my brush as I'm painting. If I want it darker, I just roll more paint on my brush. All right, so maybe in here I'll make it really dark on that edge of the hat. And I'm using ballerina toes. All right, friends, now I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna paint my bow tie. He's a really interesting Cat in the Hat, but it's gonna look great when they're all different. Okay, so now I have that done. I'm actually, friends, gonna let my Cat in the Hat dry for a little bit because we're gonna cut that out and glue him onto construction paper. So now you're gonna get a piece of construction paper and we're actually gonna create a pattern, but we're gonna experiment with acrylics instead of watercolor for this step.